least one answer. Who is this part of today's Family Bible Hour for? We have someone who often answers.
It's for children, because today's Child Month.
Okay, that's a good guess. But actually, it's for all of us. Next slide, please. Somebody else was going to answer. Okay.
I think it is for parents or anybody who performs the role of a parent.
You're absolutely right, and that means all of us are included. You know, even if you're not yet a parent or you don't plan to be a parent, I'm sure you have some friend or family member who's a parent. So don't think that we're only speaking to persons who do parenting. We're speaking to everyone. Okay, that's how I spoke to Dr. Dawkins and Mrs. Bain as we try to prepare for today. Do you see yourself in this picture? Anybody see themselves or anybody looking like them in this picture? Somebody else wants to speak? No? Okay. All right. Next slide, please. Last Sunday was Mother's Day. You remember that? Okay. Next slide. And we were reminded what God's servant Paul, who Brother Derek spoke about when he was leading the breaking of bread, Paul told children something that they were to do. Let's see what comes up when the slide is taken forward. And this is from Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1, 2, and 3. Let's read it together. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you, and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Next slide, please. And I have brought up a verse that we did not see last week, but it's a verse from the Proverbs, also in the Bible. Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Now, when the last singing group sang so excellently, and the first song said, they will answer, yes, Lord, yes. It's one thing to say that in singing. It's another thing when the singing is dismissed and you're back in the real world outside of this church building, and God says to you, so and so, do so and so, to answer him, yes, Lord, yes. And you know, I was about the age of some of these young people when God spoke to me through his word, preached, taught, and I had to make a decision as a teenager to say yes to God. Yes, Lord, when no one else was looking. And that is my prayer for these excellent singers, that they will not only say yes, Lord, yes, in their singing, but they'll say yes, Lord, yes, in their lives otherwise. And that's what I decided to do when I was a teenager. And so, enough talking from me. No more slides, please. I want to introduce Dr. Dawkins and Mrs. Bain. Dr. Lessep Dawkins is well known to many persons in this church, and he is on the board of the kindergarten. He is married. He is the father of a son and a daughter. I think his son is here. Who is Dr. Dawkins' son? Raise your hand, please. Is your name Sean Dawkins? Raise your hand, please, Sean. Good. Thank you. And Dr. Dawkins is also an experienced pediatrician and is the chairman of the board of the kindergarten school. Mrs. Bain is married. She is the mother of 3 children and grandmother of 6 girls and 3 boys. How many people knew that she was the grandmother of 9 grandchildren? A few people. Well, now everybody who's listening to me, both here and online, is advertised that she is the grandmother of 9. Did you know that she was a principal of the kindergarten many years ago? How many people knew that? A few more hands. But the present parents who are here didn't know that this lady used to be a principal at the kindergarten. But now everybody sitting here and those who are online know that. She's a trained professional counselor, and she specializes in counseling children because she works on a part-time basis at Family Life Ministries in Kingston. Okay, I'm going to now ask a couple of the first questions. Dr. Dawkins, you first. Tell us briefly about your experience as a parent. How did that come about? Oh, you have your own mic.
Thank you, Prophet. Morning, everybody. Can I add that I'm a grandparent for 10 years now? Somehow that doesn't qualify me anymore to answer the first question. But what I realized that a lot of what I was doing as a parent was what I learned from my own parents. And in my home, there were 4 biological kids and 2 adopted kids. So there was plenty of opportunity to learn how to deal with these tough-headed people, I being the only well-behaving child. So what I say is a lot of what I've been doing is what I learned along the way. And as my parents took me to church every Sunday, and some of those every Sunday, a lot is what I learned in church. Many of the Bible families. And I didn't realize I was picking up all of these points until when I had my own kids. And I looked at how I tried to be a good parent in my family. And I realized a lot of what I was doing, what I learned in church, what I learned from my own parents, and of course, what I learned from other people in the community that you respected.
Thank you. And Mrs. Bain, same question. How did you gain experience as a parent, maybe even before you became a parent?
Well, I didn't have any experience as a parent, although I did have nieces and a nephew, and I used to take them out and care for them. So maybe that was part of my experience of learning how to be a parent. But I had to read a lot of books and get advice when I became a parent. As a matter of fact, I'll say to the whole congregation, by the time I got married, I did not want to have children. I was so scared that the world was a wicked place, and I didn't think I should have children to grow up in this world. But God is gracious, and He didn't listen to that prayer. And He gave us 3 children, and He gave us wisdom to manage them. It wasn't easy, but He gave us the wisdom to manage them.
Thank you. I have a little insight into what encouraged you after a while, because there was a song that came to us that said something about because...
When I see a newborn baby, and how does the verse go? And the pride which he brings. Oh dear, I've forgotten the words. Saying them, I can sing them.
Yeah. Because he lives.
Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. That newborn baby can face uncertain days, uncertain times, because he lives. That's my testimony, that the Lord brought this song to me, and that second verse, and I was amazed. I said, but the child can face uncertainties because Jesus lives. And so that encouraged me that it was okay to have children. there it is. How sweet to hold a newborn baby. That encouraged me to have children.
Thank you. So it's been quite some time now because you have grandchildren. And from what you say, I think your faith and trust in the Lord to keep your children and to keep your grandchildren. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It was a situation in which some young people, we were traveling from Montego Bay to Kingston or the other way. I can't remember exactly. And they were singing in the car, and they sang this verse. And it was like the Holy Spirit just confirmed in my heart. It was a hallelujah moment when I said, yes, Lord, this is possible.
Last week, we asked the question and got some responses from persons in the congregation about parenting. The question was, is it an easy job? And the feedback from almost everybody who spoke, was that it's not an easy job. So, would you agree, would you disagree with reasons? Has it been an easy job for you, Dr. Dawkins, for you, Mrs. Bain? Parenting, an easy job? Who wants to answer first?
It's a mixed job. There are the terrific moments that you're happy you're a parent, and then there are challenging moments when you wish you could send the children off to, to maybe the government services. But again, you gird your loin and you move on with God's wisdom and guidance.
Yes, it wasn't easy. Some people still remember my children crawling underneath the pews in the church, crawling up. One day, our daughter, my husband was speaking, and my daughter came right up to the front, standing, and he had to say to her, "Go back to your seat." And she just turned back and went back to her seat. As parents, we want our children to be nice and sweet and quiet, and that's not possible. And we have to know that and learn how to love them even when they're crawling underneath the chairs, when they're climbing up the grill, to help them to be safe, but at the same time to love them because they're children. They don't know better. And we have to train them in the way they should go.
I'm going to turn to the congregation and say that when we come to a meeting like this, we really want to ground a lot of what is said on the scriptures. And in my preparation for today, I reminded myself that Jesus was 12 years old, as recorded in the last part of the Gospel of Luke. Some of the latest verses in that Gospel. And it said that he was obedient to his parents. You can check it out if you wish. Luke chapter 2, verse 52. So as a 12-year-old, Jesus was obedient to his parents. So if there are any 12-year-old children here, you're not too old to be obedient to your parents. And then the verse that follows says, and Jesus grew in all the ways that he needed to grow. He grew physically, he grew in wisdom, and he grew in how he related to God and how he related to people around him. And wouldn't we like to see our children grow in all those ways? In wisdom, physically, and in relation to God, and in relation to people around. Okay. Now, Dr. Dawkins, you are a pediatrician. That's a big word that I had to learn even before I came into medical school myself. But what influenced you to choose that weekday job maybe even on Sundays, sometimes you work as a pediatrician. What influenced you to choose that job?
Right, so that choice was easy. You wanted to help in the early years when you probably could have the best impact. But also, I found that the children, once they felt better, they were out of bed running around the ward, whereas the adults, you just couldn't get them out of bed until they were 101% recovered. So I was really encouraged by the attitude of kids, that innocent, pure attitude. And of course, the impact on the parents when their sick child recovered. That was golden. So it was just win-win on all sides, except when the hospital bill reached the family.
Thank you. Now I know that, and I want to recognize that there are at least 2 other pediatricians who are regular members of this congregation, and that's Dr. Kay Bailey and Dr. Mara Husang. Would you just raise your hands so that people can see you? When we were talking about giving money, we say we would never ask people from Mona to give money. But we also are saying not to advertise them so that you can go and see them, but just so that they can be recognized. Dr. Dawkins is representing the pediatric group today, and God willing, next week as well. Mrs. Bain, when I first met you, you were not a counseling psychologist. What influenced you to go into that profession?
It's a long story. Let me see if I can tell the story quickly. As a teacher in the classroom, I used to be very observant about how children were behaving and some of the issues with children. And then we became members of the board of Family Life Ministries, a new organization. And as I began to interact with the other members and volunteer in the office and help, I discovered that I needed training because I didn't know enough about psychology. So when the time came, I went to school and learned about psychology so that I could help children better in the classroom and also in a private practice.
Did your training in psychology turn you away from your Christian faith?
No. I went to a theological college, and I had to do Old Testament theology and New Testament theology in addition to the psychological courses. And so I have been able to integrate the biblical aspect of life with psychology. And I'm thankful for that because that gives me a good picture of the whole person.
Last week, when I had the privilege of speaking from the platform here, I spoke a little bit about the body and the soul. And when I talked about the soul briefly, I said that our understanding is that the soul includes the mind, that we cannot see, but that is very much a part of the whole person. And psychology focuses a lot on the mind and on behavior, isn't that right?
Yes.
So, Dr. Dawkins, my impression is that children come to your kind of doctor because of physical illness. Do children come to you with any other kinds of problems?
They do, and sometimes these are the sort of ones you have to probe a bit to understand what's happening. So especially matters of the mind, neglect and abuse, even substance abuse, and violence in the home, where the family is separated. This time mother gone off to jail, or has migrated to work abroad, you find the children will have a variety of responses to those challenges. And you see, you're not seeing anything physically wrong, but you know quite a lot is happening in the mind. And that's where we desperately need Mrs. Bain to come and help us.
Thank you for saying what you have just said, because sometimes when we come and sit in a place like this and think about parents and children and the Bible, we don't always recognize that there's a whole variety of experiences that today's child in Jamaica can have. And you mentioned just in a short minute things that children can experience. You mentioned mother or father migrating abroad and leaving the child or children here in Jamaica. What impact can that have on a child that might want you to send the child to see somebody like Mrs. Bain?
Usually you see it first in the behavior of the child. So a variety of responses. A child doing well in school, suddenly the grades fall off, or they are acting out, fighting in the classroom, or not going to school at all, or even something simple like not sleeping well, not eating well. Things like those. Mrs. Bain will give you a lot more examples.
Mrs.
Yes,
Bain?
I'm glad that Dr. Dawkins has introduced the topic, because our children suffer more than we think when parents separate, when a parent migrates. And let me tell you what happens sometimes. The parent does not tell the child that they are going to live overseas. They say, I'm going to buy some sweetie for you, or I'm going to go to Kingston, and I'll soon come back. And before you know it, the child is hearing that the mother or the father is living overseas. This looks like abandonment. The child feels that my mother or my father has just left me. And sometimes the child is left with somebody who doesn't care enough for them, who treats them badly. And this makes the situation worse. So migrating, separation where the father and mother can't get along anymore and they don't live together anymore. This hurts our children. Situations where the child is abused, the child is neglected, and you can think about many, because you may know some children in your community, some children, maybe relatives, who are going through these kinds of situations. They are difficult for the children. The children fight at school. The children become angry. They're disobedient. I had some situations yesterday because I was working yesterday. And the child, no, I'm not doing it. You ask the child to do something, and the child refuses to do it because the child is angry, the child is hurt, the child just needs some love and attention.
Now, I think I'm picking up a couple indirect messages from what both of you have shared. If I'm a parent, or if I know someone who is a parent, I would want to encourage them to speak the truth at all times to their children. Is that a reasonable indirect message, Dr. Dawkins, Mrs. Bain?
Sure. Parents, even in my practice, a parent will say, I'm not going to leave, I'm going to sit down outside, and then you hear the car driving out. And I have to say to a parent, speak the truth to your child. If you say you're staying, stay. If you have to go and do an errand, tell the child that you're going to do an errand. As parents, we need to be honest and truthful. If we don't speak the truth, they won't speak the truth. So don't tell the child, I'm just going to buy a sweetie for you, and 3-4 hours later, you haven't returned. Sit with your child, prepare your child, and speak the truth at all times.
Now, Last week we touched on this question, is parenting an easy job? And I saw people in the congregation kind of squirm in their seats. Some people spoke out and said, no, it's not easy. Is it only because children are hard to raise, or is it because parents themselves have a hard time in life while they are raising children? I hope that's not a leading question. But parents sometimes have their own struggles, isn't that right? Anybody can answer.
Yes, that's right. Parents have lots of struggles. Sometimes they can barely manage to pay their bills, and it can be very frustrating. And sometimes parents become so frustrated that they lash out at the children, and one common one, a mother will say to the child, "You ugly like you're good for nothing, poopa." That's a frequent one. Or the father may say to the child, "Your mother is a stray," or "Your mother no good." And as parents, we need to be careful what we say to the child about the other parent, even if that parent has been hard to you as a partner. Don't tell the child that. You don't have to lie. You just have to say, respect your mother, respect your father, whatever happens, so that the child will not be against either parent, whatever the situation. However painful it is for you, you need to understand that God can help you, you can trust him, and it is unwise to say things that are horrible about the other parent.
Sitting in church, it's easy to talk the way we are talking. It's easy to give advice that sounds simple and easy to follow. But persons here who are adults and who have had their own experiences when they were children, isn't it true that sometimes we just pattern what we have seen and experienced and we want to lash out at our children? That's a hard-sounding question, but what's your response to that, Dr. Dawkins?
Did you say lash out at your own children?
Yeah.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sometimes the Jamaican saying is fry the children in the parents' fat. So the father has not been as good as you want him to be. The mother has not been as good as you want her to be. And so you hurt the children and curse them. Don't curse your children. Bless them. So let me tell you a story in my family. I learned this blessing from Numbers.
What is Numbers, ma'am?
Numbers is a book in the Bible. And it says, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. The Lord be gracious unto you and give you peace." And when I learned it in the context of blessing my children, I would bless my children. And I remember many times our daughter would come and say, "Mommy, bless me, Mommy." And I think it's a good thing, which I want to suggest that parents practice. Even when the children behave badly, bless your children. Don't curse. Bless them so that God will hear and God will bless them, and you'll be amazed at how they turn out. Those troublesome children, when they give their lives to the Lord Jesus, when they accept his blessings, will become a blessing.
Okay. I'm looking at the time. I'm looking at the congregation. I'm sympathetic to the chairman, who himself is a practicing medical doctor. He doesn't only specialize with children, but I'm sure he sees some children in his practice as well. And I think that part one, we need to close it off. And we will continue next week. And one of the things that we're going to add to the program next week is looking after children that are not your own. Because Family Life Ministries has started what is being called a foster care program. And when we have a panel of 3, including the chairman of the board of Family Life Ministries, we're going to be widening the questions to ask, is it easy to undertake, to accept the responsibility to look after someone who is not your own child, your own biological child? Where do we get children who are not our own children? In Jamaica. And is it only the child that has needs, or is it the foster parent that needs to be trained and prepared to be an effective foster parent? So I see a hand, and I'm going to accept that hand if somebody can pass the microphone, because in the original Plan A, we were supposed to have a period, unhurried, for questions from the congregation. So yes, please, question or comment.
It's not on? Okay, it's now on. This is merely a request. I won't be here next week. However, we're going to talk about people parenting children who are not theirs. When I was a child, I had to parent every child except the one who came right after me. I hated it. I swore that I would never have children because I had to be parenting all those children. So I would like you to address that because it has implications.
Thank you for raising that. You know, sometimes when we think about what to deal with in child month, we clearly don't have everybody's experience in mind, and sometimes we think narrowly based on our own experience. Of course, we can never cover all the ground, even in 2 sessions, like today and next week. But I want to close by thanking the 2 panelists. And also ask you if there's anybody who you think could benefit from next week to invite those persons to come. I'm not sure that I have, the panel has dealt with what is your question, but maybe we should just ask them to respond, not just me to respond. So if Dr. Dawkins or Mrs. Bain wants to say anything in response to what you have shared, I want to let
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Cook, for raising that issue. In Jamaica, many times the firstborn child ends up helping to look after the little ones, and that can be very burdensome. And I would say to parents, try not to do that to your children now. Or if you have children later on, don't let your children have to look after the ones who are the firstborn, to look after the younger ones. It's too demanding, it's emotionally draining, it's physically draining. But because we don't have all the supports, we tend to leave children to be cared for by older ones. And I have seen it in the streets. A girl or a boy, 13, 14 years old, trying to carry a 2 or 3 year old. And sometimes the child would turn and say, "Why you not walk up? Why you not come? Why you not come?" And rough up that child because she is angry or he's angry that he has to look after that child. And that's not good for the older child, and it's not good for the younger ones either.
Dr. Dawkins, anything that you'd like to add?
As Mrs. Bain is saying, it's common in our culture. I missed all of that. I don't know if that's good or bad, but around me in the country, it was extremely common in my time. especially back in the 50s and 60s when people migrated a lot more. A lot of families had parents who went away for what they call a better life, and the care of the kids fell to the firstborn. I don't know how you improve the situation when things are difficult in the family.
I just want to make a couple brief closing remarks. You know, sometimes we think that church is what we just did for the last 2 hours, and life is different. But for those of us who have had the privilege of coming to know the Lord, we recognize that church is not just Sunday morning. And that's why I believe as leaders we need to be aware of the challenges that our members have, and other people in the community in living. There are life challenges, and I pray that we will become more aware, not just in a Child Month, because when Child Month is done, we still have to continue to be parents with our children, and children have to continue to be children growing up through the years. So I think it's good to have a Child Month, but like some people say, it's not just one day for mothers and the rest otherwise. Let's see how we can be of help to each other in our fellowship. So take the opportunity to speak to these folks in your own time, maybe a little bit after church now, but during the course of the week, so that we can help to build each other. And to the parents from the kindergarten, talk to the teachers, talk to the other parents, see what lessons you can learn. One thing that Mrs. Bain said is that she had to read a lot of books. And these days, there are healthy sources of information about parenting. We have to be very careful how we reach out to sources, because one of the questions that I wanted to ask today and will ask next week is, what are the pressures that our children are facing now that we didn't face when we were children? So remind me to ask that question next week, and I'm going to hand back over to our chairman.
Give the panelists a hand, please remain with us. Quite an informative discussion, and that will help us. Please remain with us. Because, you know, we're a Bible-believing church, and something Mrs. Bain says